That's me, Lance. I tie flies and am the creator of this channel. Today I am tying a hare's ear nymph, a classic pattern. If you are new to my channel or just like to tie cool flies, subscribe and click the bell so that you can be notified of new content. That's me, and this is my vise. Into its jaws I place a size 12 TMC 5262 and wrap 10 wraps of .020 lead wire around its shank. Then I start a bobbin of 8/0 rust brown unithread just behind the eye of the hook. Once secured, I cut the thread tag from the fly. Then wrap the thread to the lead wire, and with light wraps of thread, quickly wrap over the lead wire. When the thread reaches the back of the lead wire, I continue wrapping thread to the bend of the hook. Now I'll take a hare's mask and cut a small bundle of fibers from the forehead and in between the eyes, and take this bundle and pull out as much underfur and short hairs from the bundle that I can. I won't discard the underfur and short hairs, because the underfur and hairs will be used as dubbing for the abdomen and thorax. After the underfur has been removed from the bundle, I'll measure the bundle from the tips to a half shank long, and secure the bundle to the shank at this measured point with thread, so that the tips are at the back of the fly. Once the tail has been tied in, I'll continue securing the butt ends of the hare's mask to the hook until the thread reaches just behind the lead wire, where I'll use the index finger and thumb of my material hand to lift these butt fibers from the fly and trim them away from the hook with my scissors. Now that the tail has been completed, my thread should be hanging below the fly and behind the lead wire. Here I'll cut a 2 to 3 inch strand of brassy copper ultra wire from the spool. Then I'll place the copper wire's tip against the back of the lead wire and lash it down to the shank with thread. I'll wrap the thread around the wire and down the shank to the bend of the hook. As dubbing for the abdomen of this fly, I have 3 choices. First, I can use dubbing from a hairline dubbing package. Second, I can pull or cut the fur from a hare's mask to create dubbing. And third, remember that underfur and short hairs I didn't discard when preparing the tail fiber? Yeah, I can use those. Granted, that won't be enough, so I'll have to use a combination with one of the other 2 options when using this option. Seeing as how I don't like wasting my materials, I'm going to use option 3 in combination with option 2. So I'll take a small bit of the dubbing I pulled from the tail fibers and twist them to the thread. Then I'll wrap the dubbed thread around the shank, creating a taper that tapers thin at the bend to thicker at 2/3 of the way up the shank, where I'll end the abdomen. When I run out of dubbed thread, I'll twist more dubbing to the thread with either more of the dubbing that I cleaned out of the tail fibers or by pulling it from the mask. Once the abdomen has been created, I'll throw a half hitch onto the thread and onto the hook. Then, using the rotary function of my vise, I'll rotate the fly and wrap the ribbing around the fly with 6 to 8 evenly spaced wraps of wire around the shank. After the rib has been wrapped around the fly, I'll tie off the copper wire with tight wraps of thread and helicopter the ultra wire until it breaks as I pull the bobbin with my material hand. At this point, I'll wrap my thread back over the abdomen until it hangs about 40% of the way down the shank from the eye of the hook. For the wing case, I'll pull a slip of turkey fibers from a turkey tail feather that is a bit wider than the hook gap and trim the tips even. Then I'll lay them, tips first, just leaned over the near side of the hook where the thorax will be, and secure them to the shank so they are centered along the length of the hook. I'll continue wrapping thread around the turkey fibers and the shank until the tips are covered with thread, and bring the thread back to where the turkey is coming out of the fly. From here I'll twist more dubbing on the thread of the fly and dub the thorax. I want the thorax to be fairly robust because I'll pull fibers from the thorax to create legs, so I'll wrap enough dub thread to the thorax to make this happen. Once the dub thread reaches to about an eye length behind the eye, I'll bring the turkey fibers over the thorax and tie it to the shank with light wraps of thread and adjust the turkey fiber so that the wing case is lined up with the shank. Now that I've aligned the turkey to where I want it, I'll wrap a couple tight wraps of thread around the turkey and the hook shank, locking the wing case in place, and then cut the turkey butts as close to the shank as possible without cutting my thread. After the wing case has been completed, I'll wrap a few more tight wraps of thread around the fly to create a small head. Then apply a bit of head cement to the thread, throw 2 3-turn whip finishes to the fly, and then cut the thread. To create legs for the hare's ear nymph, I'll use my Velcro on a stick and carefully brush the thorax of the fly. Brushing the thorax picks fibers out of the fly and creates its legs. This is a hare's ear nymph. The hare's ear nymph is an awesome classic fly that utilizes minimal materials and basic techniques. It's a fly that every fly tyer should learn to tie. If you like to tie flies, be sure to check out my tying demos playlist to the top right. Or if you are a nymph only guy, check out my nymphs playlist below that. Oh yeah, one last thing. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and to like Fishbaits Flybox on Facebook. Thanks for watching. Now go feed your vice.